back to the studio. Today we're going to be working on a very simple project, and that is this piece applique. But today I wanted to go a little bit into why I chose this design. I don't usually talk much about myself or why I decide what I'm going to be working on. So I thought this week, because this is going to be so quick, that I might just give you a little insight. One thing is that here in the studio, we just passed Easter Sunday, and I know in many faiths, at the end of a service, often they will say, "Peace be with you," and then the congregation will repeat, "and also with you." And so peace is a resounding symbol through many religions. Also, we just laid my father to rest a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that people often say is, "May he rest in peace." And so that is an eternal thing that we want for someone, we wish for someone. But also, if you happen to catch the Christmas video that I dubbed Celestial Christmas, it's on YouTube, you will know that I have an affinity for angels. And I have been working on these angel quilts for probably, about 2015, 2016. And in my case, many of the ones that I resonated with were frescoes that came from a specific church in Kyiv, Ukraine. The church is pronounced something like St. Volodymyr's Cathedral. It's in Kyiv. And for whatever reason, I was drawn to all of the frescoes that were painted by a specific painter. And I didn't know that when I was being drawn to them. I didn't even know that when I was making them or after I'd made them. And in fact, I made 5 quilts from this particular artist, this particular church in Kyiv. And we all know that there's what's going on there. So peace is just something that just keeps coming to mind for me lately. And it was funny because I constantly go through the catalog for the applique, which you could order from the Urban Elementz website, and they could mail a copy out to you. But I'm going to say that I don't memorize all of these things. And I was messaging Patricia, and I said, "We need a peace symbol." And I said, I just really feel on my heart to do that right now. I just want to do it. Not that it's going to solve anything, but it's just where my heart was. And she messaged me back and she said, "We already have one." And evidently I had seen it subconsciously, and it was just working on me. So I went ahead and got me one. It's a very simple design. This is a laser cut and prefused applique like many that I've done before, and it's peel, place, and press. The fabric is already pre-selected in the kit, and all we have to do is peel the paper backing off and position it into place, and then we'll fuse it with steam is critical because we use steam and steam 2 as the backing, and the heated iron. Many people constantly repeat the same questions on Facebook and many quilting groups. People are always asking, where do I get an iron that doesn't leak? I don't care how much I have to pay for it. I just want an iron that doesn't leak. And if you never put water into an iron, it can never leak. So I keep my iron dry, and I keep a spritz bottle nearby, and that will create steam. It's the old-fashioned way. It's the way our foremothers and foregrandmothers did it. I remember even like an old glass Coke bottle with a cork and metal top that you would shake, and the water would spritz out the top. So this is a more modern version of that. So my only choices really were, I had 2 tote bags. I had the little white one, and the size of the applique would probably be better suited for the white one, but I think I'm going to go with the black one, but I won't really know until I pull the pieces out and lay them on there. And this is a great way to show how you could demo different backings just by laying the component pieces on there, because they're not going to change in effect by fusing it. The look is still going to be the same. So I'm going to move the camera in and we can get started on this, if you can ignore the lint on my bag today. But I have the 2 bags to choose from, and we'll get this wrapped up pretty quick. As you see with the packaging, here we have the front cover. It's a color cover, so you can see exactly what the pieces are going to be. Everything inside this box is included in the kit. So when we open this up, we could pull out our color cover sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in my little sign holder. And we can use that as a reference. Also, you'll see that we always have a paper pattern. This is your placement guide. And I am not going to need this under my fabric because I won't be able to see it. But I will tell you that I almost always iron my paper pattern just to make sure that I don't translate any of the wrinkles from the pattern into my finished project. So this will mostly be just used to eyeball where the pieces will go. So I'm going to set that to the side, and also we have our instructions here. The instructions do detail how the applique components work. What's the process. I'm going to give this bag a quick iron just so we don't translate any of those wrinkles into the applique. And then I'm going to lay these pieces on here. And it's just going to be a matter of, do we think that it looks better on the white or on the black? I like the functionality of the larger bag. This white bag, for some reason, to me, just looks like not a quality bag and not a quality project when it's finished. The purple on here disappears a little bit onto the black, and the white disappears on the white bag. But I think I still prefer the black. So that's going to be my choice. I'm imagining that my choice will be about 50-50 if you will agree. So that's the best I can ever hope for. And I know from past experience that when someone doesn't agree with me, they let me know in the comment section. So here we have our components. We could loosely put our pieces in place. Sometimes I will group all of the like pieces together, all of my green dots, all of my orange dots, and then we just have the flowers. This one's definitely bigger. I can't tell you how many times this little flower gets me. There we go. And we have our dots, and we have our piece. Now when it comes time for me to put these letters down, I can put the paper over top of it and just lift it up as I'm placing. But I am going to spread this out a little bit bigger because I have a bigger bag. You could get really detailed if you wanted and make a mark on the bag to make sure that we got our centerpiece centered, and I might actually do that. Just a little chalk mark. As you can see, I measured across the width of the bag and I made myself a center line. And that center line for me is going to be where the center bar of the piece symbol is. And I also measured the bag, deducted the height of the piece symbol and then split that in two so that this would be an equal distance from the top and bottom and centered side to side. You see that we have a paper backing on the back of the piece symbol, and that will simply peel off. And then it's just a matter of laying this into place. The tackiness of the Steam-A-Seam 2 will hold this component into place until I get the rest of the pieces in place. Now, I have always shown that you would put all of the components on and then fuse them, but you could very easily fuse as you go. There is nothing saying that you couldn't. I know for sure, absolutely sure, that that's going to go there. And I could just simply fuse the piece symbol, and that way it would make sure that all of the components are getting fused properly for their layer. The amount of time that we are going to fuse is going to depend on the heat of your iron, the age of your iron, the quality of your iron, and that's something you're just going to have to test for yourself. If we have not fused properly and we were going to stitch through this, either by top stitching or quilting, any gumming that we're getting on the needle would be an indication that we have not fused long enough. Because of the type of project that this won't get any stitching at all. It doesn't require any. If we fuse this properly from the start, it is permanent, even when washed and dried. So we could put our flower, our pattern back in place, and go ahead and just piece by piece put our components in place. Now you can see here that this overlaps pretty deep, almost goes into the crossbar here. So that's one thing we could look at. But I also could separate this a little bit more because I have a larger background piece than what this is showing here. And I just fold over one of the back edges and we'll go ahead and put this in place. And again, I'm just going to overlap it very lightly. Then we can do our outer circle of the center, and then one of our inner circles. And how off-center these are kind of is what adds the character to this project. Now again, we could use the photograph of the pattern to determine how deep that is inset, but again, I'm going to pull it off because we have a lot of background to fill, and I just want this to feel a little proportional to the bag that I'm using. It's very easy to peel these pieces off, but I will tell you, depending on the humidity, that will affect how easy the paper comes off. If you ever find that the adhesive is not sticking to the fabric itself when you're pulling the piece off, you can just put the paper backing back on it and fuse that piece with the iron and let it cool down, and then go ahead and peel it as normal. Another thing that I do, and I don't see, I'd have to use one of my pins here. On any of the pieces, if you take something sharp like the flower head pen, a seam ripper, the tip of the scissors, you can score that paper. And that gives you something to bend over and peel off in the same way we would have if the edge isn't cooperating. And you can see that that piece is positionable and repositionable as needed. Where I am, it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue with the humidity. Mine always seem to peel off pretty easily here. Only once or twice since I've been demoing these have I ever had to re-iron a piece because it wasn't done right in the manufacturing process. They do a really, really good job. But also in the same token, if you ever get a kit and it's missing a piece, don't hesitate to let them know, because they can get that sent out to you. Now at this point, I'm going to turn the bag around so I can see it. Because words and lettering are very recognizable, and we really would want to have this be represented in the way that you could understand it. So any spacing that I'm going to do, I want to do it so I can actually see it. Upside down, it would be easy to put one of these letters in the wrong place. And, you know, I could spread this out as much as I wanted, as long as it's still recognizable to me. So I'm going to go ahead and start the same thing with my letters. Keep in mind that even after I position these, I can lift them back up and reposition them as long as I have not fused. So these are in place. I think I'm going to shift that one just a little. Got a little bit of lint on there. So I know that my letters are right side up according to the orientation of the bag, and I know that I can go ahead and fuse these. It was visually pleasing to me. A lot of times what I will do when I'm fusing, I will use a Teflon pressing sheet, and I did not do that today. It isn't absolutely necessary. But some of the reasons I like using a Teflon pressing sheet or some kind of pressing sheet is it protects the fusible material from getting onto the iron. It protects the fabric from getting scorched if you happen to let the iron sit too long or at too high of a temperature. It also protects the edges of the applique. Sometimes I get lazy and I might push the iron from side to side rather than lifting it up and repositioning it. And in doing so, I might catch the edge of the applique with the edge of the iron, crinkle up my applique, and then the iron's fusing it, but it's fusing it in a crinkled orientation, which is not what we want. A lot of times also, if I have multiple layers, this one really isn't too bad, and we fused it in layers, but you could turn the project inside out like this bag and then also iron it from the back side, just to make sure that we've really done our job in fusing this properly. But this is how easy this is to use and why it's so much fun to get a project finished. So that's pretty much it. It's very easy to work with these laser cut and pre-fused applique from Applique Elementz. They have a huge catalog of items online that you can see on the Urban Elementz website. They also have the catalog that you could have ordered and sent to you, and it's a great way to leaf through it, share it with maybe some kids or grandkids, and find projects that they would like to work on or they might be interested in. As they say, everything old is new again, and the same is true with the peace symbol. I think this is one of those eternal concepts, and I think it's something that almost everybody can identify with, the desire to have. So great for kids and grandkids, putting on their backpacks. Anything that you couldn't use an iron to fuse it with, you can fuse with a blow dryer with a little bit of steam, and then hold it in place with a tea cloth until it cools down. We have fused on glass, metal, wood, canvas, burlap, so it goes on a wide variety of items. Thanks for stopping in today and spending a few minutes with me here in the studio. And as I said in the beginning, peace be with you.